Hillary Clinton's email investigation is reopened, and just moments ago, we received a new statement from John Podesta, the chairman of her campaign for presidency, and it reads as follows. Upon completing this investigation more than 3 months ago, FBI Director Comey declared no reasonable prosecutor would move forward with a case like this and added that it was not even a close call. In the months since, Donald Trump and his Republican allies have been baselessly second-guessing the FBI in both public and private, browbeating the career officials there to revisit their conclusion in a desperate attempt to harm Hillary Clinton's presidential campaign. Podesta goes on, FBI Director Comey should immediately provide the American public with more information than is contained in this letter he sent to 8 Republican committee chairmen. Already, we have seen characterizations that the FBI is reopening an investigation, but Comey's words do not match that characterization. Director Comey's letter refers to emails that have come to light in an unrelated case, but we have no idea what those emails are, and the director himself notes they may not even be significant. He goes on, it is extraordinary that we would see something like this just 11 days from a presidential election. The director owes it to the American people to immediately provide the full details of what he's now examining. We are confident this will not produce any conclusions different from the one the FBI reached in July. The full text of that is being placed at foxnews.com, where you can read it. Carl Cameron, live, Cedar Rapids, Iowa. What's the thinking about how this really could upend things, Carl?
Well, it's yet to be seen. Certainly from the Trump campaign's perspective, they think this is manna from heaven, a gift. And obviously, when you put it into the context of the last 10 days of this campaign and marry it with the spike in Obamacare premiums and the endless streams of WikiLeaks hacked Podesta emails, it certainly is a potent additional attack for Trump to add to his closing argument. The New York Times and others reporting now that this is related to the Anthony Weiner investigation and that both he and his wife, Huma Abedin, Hillary Clinton's top aide, and their devices were part of a separate investigation, suggest that that might have something to do with it. But it's very interesting to hear the Clinton campaign say, bring it on, show us what you got. That is, in fact, what Jason Chaffetz, the chairman of the House Government Oversight Committee, said earlier today. It's what Mike Pence said earlier today, that the FBI director should immediately explain what it is that they found so that the American people can know before the election. Because, for all intents and purposes, an investigation of this kind isn't going to get finished in the next 11 days, and the voters have a right to know. For the Republicans to be making that demand makes sense. They're looking and they think they smell blood. For the Democrats to make that demand suggests that they may have an idea of what was on Huma Abedin and or Anthony Weiner's devices that are apparently part of this investigation. And it's fairly difficult to imagine how Anthony Weiner might have had any classified information on it unless he got it from his wife. And since Huma Abedin and Hillary Clinton are so close, and as Jennifer was reporting, they were seated next to each other today on the plane, you can bet that the staffer got grilled by the candidate about what possible risk there could be in any of her old devices and the potential presence of national security information. Even if this were to turn out to be a nothing burger, Shep, it is not going to be that way until the election. The Trump campaign is going to pound this. Republicans are going to pound this, and Democrats are definitely on defense. Hillary Clinton's lead was shrinking. It always does when we get to the last 10 or 15 days. The polls always get tighter. Pollsters get much more cautious. So this is a huge development. When it's resolved and how it's resolved will be after Election Day. Whether it affects the resolution of Election Day, we'll know in 11 days.
Wow. These calls for the release of whatever information they have might make sense on the surface, but Carl, as you well know, this is a serious criminal investigation that, if found guilty, could leave Anthony Weiner in prison for many years. That's not the sort of investigation about which you can make knowledge public, because it's all involved in that investigation. To do so would itself be a crime, depending on how closely related it is to that case. So they really are kind of stuck here.
But Comey could, the FBI director, could be a little bit more clear. That was a pretty oblique and opaque, I should say, announcement that he made. And the word out of the Justice Department and out of some in the FBI is that this may not be the kind of catastrophic wound and injury to Hillary Clinton that Republicans would hope for. That doesn't mean that Donald Trump can't turn it into one, however. This is politics. This is not a Justice Department investigation or an FBI investigation. This is an American election. And with the Republican and Democratic candidates pounding them one another with insults far more than policies and offering for the taxpayers, the way it's adjudicated will be vastly different from the way things work at the FBI and the Justice Department.
Yeah, there's no doubt there. Catherine, stay with us, Carl.
All right, 11 days out to the election, and things have changed in October. Surprise that surprised pretty much everybody. The FBI reopening an investigation into Hillary Clinton's use of a private server while Secretary of State after discovering new emails. This isn't WikiLeaks stuff. This isn't stuff that came up post the investigation. Apparently, it came up during a probe of former Congressman Anthony Weiner's sexting case in a stunning turn of events here. That was just part of the discovery in that case. But these emails came to light. FBI agents then forwarded them to their director. James Comey had a chance to review them and review that investigation and concluded that he should reach out to key committee chairmen in Congress to let them know I might have to go into this again. California Republican Congressman Darrell Issa, member of the House Judiciary Committee, among those committees, getting that heads up. You know what's interesting about that, sir, is that there was no heads up granted to anyone at the State Department, to apparently anyone at the White House, or to anyone, we're told, in the Clinton campaign. What do you make of that?
Well, based on what we've seen leaking out through WikiLeaks, they probably were informed, and we'll find that out years from now. But I think what's most interesting is what we appear to have are emails not previously seen by the director, not seen in the investigation. And I think the American people have to ask, after 4 years after Hillary Clinton left office, why is it she hasn't turned over the documents she was required to leave at the State Department by law when she left?
But what would it be, or what do you think it could be? I don't want you necessarily just to speculate. I understand that's tough. But that would change the director's mind, or have him, do a sort of a pride swallowing about face here?
Well, it's, as you say, it's hard to come up with the specifics. What I think we can safely know is it's not just more emails, because you could read those and make a decision. It has to be some information that's going to cause them to have to reach out to individuals, subpoena people, do depositions, something that would take a while. Because I think if it was just reading and evaluating the emails and saying, oh, by the way, we've got a few thousand more to add, they would have done that in a one-day announcement. So I do know in my heart that this is going to go on past the election at this point, because there have to be individuals who now need to be either examined or re-examined.
So that would include potentially Hillary Clinton herself.
Well, I wouldn't want to speculate, but again, Neil.
But she was, the reason why I mentioned it, she was interviewed by the FBI already, and prior to the July 5th announcement on Mr. Comey's part that he wasn't going to recommend the Justice Department take any further action, that was based after only days earlier talking to Mrs. Clinton. At the very least, it possibly has to revisit that. This could be a mess.
Well, it's certainly a mess created by Hillary Clinton. She broke the law, a law that she advised others to obey when she was secretary. She destroyed 30,000 documents, many of which were recovered, but apparently not all. And she continues to essentially not cooperate, even though she says she cooperates. I think the fact is that if she'd wanted to get this behind her, she could have done it when I sent her a letter asking about, well, she was still secretary, about whether she had a private email, notifying her once again that there was a requirement not to do it on private email, and for every email that inadvertently becomes private, that they have to be made public to the State Department and left there. Had she done what she knew she should have done, she wouldn't be in this position. Had she come clean early on, she wouldn't be in this position. And according to what you're saying, had her chief aide, Ahmadin, had her husband done what he should have done, he wouldn't have had those on his devices either.
What doesn't that tell you, the irony of a situation like this, that this could all turn on the basis of a sexting investigation into a former United States congressman?
Well, that may be good for the news, but, you know, to me, the fact that President Obama was emailing back and forth to her private email, and then he comes to my own district and says there hasn't been a single major scandal in his administration might be a better point. This is a major scandal, and it's a scandal of the making of Hillary Clinton. It's a scandal that didn't have to be, because all she had to do was obey the law when she left Congress, or sorry, left the State Department, and it wouldn't have happened. It's not too late for her to essentially to stop digging a hole, but I suspect she'll continue to provide information only when she has to, only when it's found in other places. That's been a pattern of her whole life.
Congressman, we'll see. Again, the Hillary campaign has said, the Hillary Clinton campaign has said, up to now they might have been sloppy. They did nothing illegal. But again, today's developments could put a new wrinkle on that.
Catherine Herridge is here, our chief intelligence correspondent, who's on the line with us with some new insights. Catherine, to you.
Well, thank you, Shepard. With hindsight now, there are two events this week which really suggest that there was going to be a major development in the email investigation. One of our law enforcement sources told us that Thursday, a senior leadership meeting with FBI was scheduled in Quantico, Virginia, and it was canceled at short notice and very precipitously. Second, we were also contacted Thursday by someone who's working directly with the FBI who indicated that new information had come to light in the case that had not been examined in the course of the original FBI investigation. So in hindsight, this now suggests that they were ramping up for the announcement that we had today, Shepard.
It sounds like, at least the way that they're presenting it, this is a very simple case of, we had a case, we'd gone through all of the information related to that case, we decided that the case should not go forward. Now we have more information, so we're going to look at that information, and if anything changes, we'll let you know. Except 11 days from an election.
Correct.
It's a bit of a mess.
Well, what I would say on that point, Shepard, is that you hear this term closed case. That means in FBI language that the case file is sitting on the shelf, because for the FBI, nothing is really ever closed. They always have the option to re-engage and reinitiate. And in fact, based on a conversation with two former FBI agents this afternoon, they emphasized to me that it's not unusual to reopen a case if new evidence comes to light. Now, the caveat in that conversation was that you only re-engage or reopen if you think there is sufficient evidence and the quality of the evidence is significant, but most importantly, it has direct relevance to the investigation.
And yet Comey says he doesn't even know whether these matters are of significance yet. He used that specific word and said he doesn't know yet.
He says he doesn't know, but you would not re-engage an investigation on the basis of a handful of emails in a spam folder, okay? You would not do that. You would re-engage when you think there's sufficient evidence, and evidence that may, in fact, be relevant. And this goes to the point of whether it contained classified information. So this potentially is a case where there is classified information on the device of a party who was well outside the U.S. government.
Of a party well outside the U.S. government. That
would be the Anthony Weiner device, okay, if it showed up on that, right? So, again, the issue with classified information is how far outside secure channels it went. The argument in the email investigation is that these were government people exchanging information with her. They did not have an expectation or an intent to take classified information outside of that channel. If the device is Weiner's device and it's got classified information, this takes it well outside the scope of State Department business.
Catherine Herridge on the live line with us. Catherine, thank you. So the email investigation is not closed. It is reopened, if that's the right word. They've found new information that may be pertinent to the Clinton case. They don't yet know, according to Director Comey, whether it's significant, so they're going to look into it 11 days before the election. If Donald Trump's camp was telling the truth when it said it had a three-pronged strategy to suppress the vote, it would probably add a fourth prong. Let's bring in Fox News Sunday host Chris Wallace. This is, well, I didn't expect this Friday surprise, did you?
No, and this is a big deal.
Yeah.
First of all, I think we're being way too nuanced and being somewhat cautious about saying they're reopening the investigation. The whole reason we know about this is because James Comey, the FBI director, in congressional testimony said that the investigation was complete. And so we had to send a letter to the chairs and top Democrats and all those committees amending his testimony because the investigation is no longer complete. As far as I'm concerned, that is reopening the investigation.
Oh, yeah, me too.
Secondly, you have got to know that James Comey did not want to reopen this investigation. A month ago, he was asked by a Republican congressman on the House Judiciary Committee about all the information that had come up since he closed the investigation in July, and say, well, why don't you reopen it? He said, that doesn't come even close to reopening the investigation. So for him to do that now, just 11 days before the election, and I promise you he can read the calendar just like all the rest of us, this has to be substantial. Not saying that it's going to put it over the edge and result in a criminal case against Hillary Clinton, but this has to be substantial enough, and you know he didn't want to do this, that he had to, in effect, eat his words, go back to these committees, and announce this investigation fully aware of the bombshell effect this is going to have on the final week and a half of this campaign.
Do you have a sense for how much pressure there will be on him to give voters and others more information, whatever he has?
Well, you know, it's interesting. I've got the letter here that he wrote to the committee, and I keep reading it because there's nuance after nuance that you can find in this. And at one point he says, although the FBI cannot yet assess whether or not this material, this new material they have found, these emails may be significant, and I cannot predict how long it will take to complete this additional work. And the point there is, if you look at most FBI investigations, they take a long time. 11 days, they don't clear their throat in 11 days. And if this involves information, and he says one of the things they have to ascertain is whether these new emails that, according to the New York Times, came from Uma Abedin and or Anthony Weiner, whether or not there's classified information there, and they have to go back and check this with the intel community, the various agencies that were responsible for this information in the first place. I would have to think it's highly unlikely that this is going to be resolved before Election Day, which of course raises the possibility that millions of Americans are going to go to the polls. They're going to the polls right now, but will be going to the polls over the next 11 days up to and including Election Day, not knowing whether or not there's going to be a criminal case against Hillary Clinton.
It is sort of astounding. You wonder, we found out already from the reporting of the New York Times that this is from the Anthony Weiner case. That matter leaked out pretty quickly. I wonder if more context is going to come to us in this sort of behind-the-scenes way that they couldn't really release in written notification because of the fact that the Weiner case is open and it's criminal. I mean, if they're going to give us anything, they got to slide it in, you know?
Yeah, but I would think that the release of these emails and what impact they have, and you raise a good question, this might not involve Hillary Clinton. It could involve Uma Abedin. Did she have classified information in an insecure email setting? Was she sharing it with Anthony Weiner? There's all kinds of speculation you can have. I don't know, but I've got to think that given the fact that they were talking about this in terms of the Clinton investigation, not the Uma Abedin investigation, that this does involve, or at least questions are going to be raised about Hillary Clinton's criminal liability in all of these things, whether or not this touches her or doesn't touch her.
How close was Uma Abedin, if I remember? She had been a part of this investigation from the beginning because of correspondences, or do I have two stories mixed up here? Wasn't
no,
she
she's been involved in this case. She, in fact, was on Hillary Clinton's private server. Uma Abedin was, in terms of personal relationship and actual physical proximity, Hillary Clinton's closest aide during the time she was Secretary of State, and frankly, during most of this campaign, so close that she has been called Hillary Clinton's second daughter. She was almost a member of the family, is almost a member of the family. And in all of the emails we've seen in WikiLeaks, the point of contact, you never see Hillary Clinton sending emails, but the point of contact between the campaign and Hillary Clinton is almost invariably Uma Abedin. So she is as close as you can get to Hillary Clinton.
Bill, and Hillary Clinton hosted Anthony Weiner and Uma Abedin's wedding reception at their home up in Chappaqua. Bill and Hillary Clinton greeted everyone and spoke of her lovingly as a second daughter. Has been widely seen as the closest person to Hillary Clinton throughout most of her professional life, right, Chris?
Well, certainly in recent years. I mean, just think about this. You know, in this election, which has been so crazy, so unprecedented in so many ways, we have an FBI investigation about sexting texts that Anthony Weiner may or may not have sent to an underage girl. The FBI is investigating that and apparently comes across information that they feel is so important, so significant, that they have to reopen the Hillary Clinton email investigation 11 days before she possibly could be elected the next president of the United States. You couldn't write that kind of a script in terms of the merging of all kinds of different elements, savory and unsavory, and involving the highest stakes in American politics. It's really quite extraordinary.
It certainly is. America's moderator breaking it down for you this weekend on Fox News Sunday. Chris will talk.
Something big. Now, we should stress the White House doesn't see things that way. The White House indicating today it was not given a heads up on this, nor anyone at the State Department, nor anyone on the Clinton campaign. But again, a spokesman for the president saying, I don't think anything has surfaced to change the president's opinion and views of Secretary Clinton. That was en route, the president en route to Orlando to speak on her behalf, Hillary Clinton's behalf, at a campaign event. RNC Chairman Reince Priebus with us right now. They're saying no big deal. Reince, you're saying what?
Well, of course they're going to say that, but you wouldn't have James Comey write to all of the heads of these investigative committees to say that he's amending his testimony where he testified that the case was closed, only now to say that in fact the case is open and that they found emails that may be pertinent to the case. Now, he wouldn't say may be pertinent unless they were pertinent. I mean, somebody handed off this material. James Comey didn't find the material himself. Some agent came to James Comey and said, here's what we found, and my guess is that it's pretty serious and that it wouldn't have happened today if it wasn't.
Well, a lot of these emails came relates to a separate case involving Anthony Weiner and the sexting charges against him with an underage woman. So maybe as part of that, he just reviewed them and said, well, before I write off unequivocally, I'm now made aware of these other, to your point, pertinent emails. So it might not be a big matter, but the fact that he is giving them a heads up, you say, makes it a big matter.
Well, yeah, I mean, why else? I mean, I saw Podesta's statement, and I think his statement actually makes our point even further, which is, why would an FBI director inform the entire highest levels of our congressional leadership in these particular areas of this matter if it wasn't something extraordinarily serious?
But why would he give all of them
and I
a
think
heads
it is.
up?
Look,
Right?
I mean,
but why would he give all of them a heads up and not anyone at the State Department, not, for example, anyone at the White House, no one in the Clinton organization?
Neil, I don't know what the protocols are at the FBI with whom he has to, but obviously he wouldn't have done it if it wasn't big deal. Secondly, Hillary Clinton shouldn't have gotten away with it in the first place. I mean, James Comey already laid out a case of gross negligence against Hillary Clinton. And by the way, if you read the statute, now I know there are constitutional arguments the other way, but if you read the statute, it says that if you violate this statute, you're not eligible to hold federal office in this country. It's one of the penalties for violating the concept of giving away state secrets.
What he was saying was, you know, any of these security briefings that presidential candidates, I guess, get every couple of weeks, she shouldn't be getting them. That she is. What do you think of that? Compromised security already?
And I think, Paul Ryan is correct. And as we know, Paul Ryan is very careful. He doesn't just throw off statements. We've learned that about Paul Ryan. And so the fact that Paul Ryan has now weighed in and said Hillary Clinton should not be eligible for these briefings, for these security briefings, tells you a lot about what people like Paul Ryan and others on the Hill think of Hillary Clinton. She can't be trusted with the presidency. That's clear. But more importantly, it's what we've been saying all along. She should have never gotten away with this in the first place. And now, 11 days before the election, we know that the FBI director is coming back and saying, time out. This investigation is open, unlike what I said to Congress a few months ago,
right.
and we have
isn't going to be
information.
resolved anytime soon. Thank you very much, Reince Priebus.
I need to open with a very critical breaking news announcement. The FBI has just sent a letter to Congress informing them that they have discovered new emails pertaining to the former Secretary of State Hillary Clinton's investigation and they are reopening the case into her criminal and illegal conduct that threatens the security of the United States of America. Hillary Clinton's corruption is on a scale we have never seen before. We must not let her take her criminal scheme into the Oval Office. I have great respect for the fact that the FBI and the Department of Justice are now willing to have the courage to right the horrible mistake that they made. This was a grave miscarriage of justice that the American people fully understood. And it is everybody's hope that it is about to be corrected. So that is a big announcement that I heard 10 minutes ago. And I guess, obviously, most of you folks have heard about. And in all fairness, for all of the people that have suffered for doing so much less, including just recently, 4-star General James Cartwright, General Petraeus, and many others, perhaps finally justice will be done.